Fear, according to the Webster's Dictionary, is an unpleasant, often strong emotion caused by anticipation or awareness of danger. Every human being will suffer from fear at one point in their life. It can come in many shapes, sizes, and scenarios like spiders, the dark, height, physician's office, and for today's video, roller coasters. Many people are or were afraid of roller coasters at one point. I mean, they can be rather intimidating, especially the taller and faster that they become. If you've been following my channel for some time, you would know that even I was afraid of roller coasters up until I turned 13. In this video, using my own personal experience, I will attempt to help you overcome your fear of roller coasters. Please note, I am not a professional, this is not actual medical advice, so do not take as such. To start things off, I think we need to discuss the different aspects of a roller coaster that trigger fear emotions. Safety. Let's start off with the most prominent one, and that's safety. We want to make sure that we are properly secured and nothing bad is going to happen to us. Statistics tell us that your chances of being injured on a roller coaster is 1 out of 24 million. And the odds of being killed is 1 in 750 million. To put that into perspective, you have a higher chance of winning the Powerball than you do dying on an amusement attraction. Roller coasters and all other theme park attractions are vigorously tested on a daily basis. They have multiple layers of redundancies to keep you safe. As an example, most roller coasters hold in their riders with two forms of restraints. It's usually a lap bar, shoulder bar of sorts, and a seatbelt. The seatbelt is actually not necessary as the lap bar restraint has multiple redundancies to keep that in place. Seatbelts are actually there for rider comfort. It's like a mental safety harness, since you, the rider, cannot see all the extra layers of precautions that keep your restraint in place. A simple seatbelt is placed there to create another artificial layer of safety and comfort for the rider. Beyond the ride restraints, the roller coaster train has multiple layers of safety that keep it operating correctly while traversing the track. A typical roller coaster train can have anywhere from 64 to 128 wheels, keeping it on the track. This video isn't going to be discussing all the multiple ways to keep a roller coaster secure and operating correctly, but just note that a roller coaster is safer than the car you drove to get to the park. Heights. So even if I'm able to convince you that a roller coaster is safe, heights can be the toughest hurdle for any aspiring enthusiast to vault over. A modern roller coaster can reach to staggering heights over 400 feet, though there are only 2 roller coasters in operation that are that tall. Most roller coasters will hit at least 100 feet, but there are larger amusement parks like Six Flags Magic Mountain and Cedar Point that have multiple roller coasters over 200 feet. How about being afraid that you won't like the ride? Maybe it'll be too intense for you. This was my fear before I started riding roller coasters. I wasn't really afraid of the heights or being injured on the ride. No, I was afraid that the ride would prove to be too intense for me, thus creating a terrifying experience. Similar to our heights issue, I cannot throw out some stats or prove to you how your ride experience will go. But later in this video, I will discuss some steps you can take that will help you get the best experience out of your first roller coaster ride. Now that we discussed some common reasons that keep us from riding a roller coaster, let's dive into some steps that we can do to help us conquer our fear. Number 1. Start off with a small roller coaster. Honestly, a kiddie roller coaster is where everyone should start off if you are struggling with anxiety. It's a good way to acclimate yourself with the restraints, get a feeling of how your body could be potentially thrown around, and to see others are reacting to the same experience. A kiddie roller coaster functions like most of roller coasters. It features a lift that pulls you to the highest point, then lets gravity do the rest as you coast your way back to the station. Once you ride a kiddie coaster, keep riding it over and over until you feel completely comfortable, maybe even a little bored of riding it. Once you accomplish that, it's on to our second point. Number 2, the family coaster. Unfortunately, not every amusement park has these good transition coasters from kiddie to bigger rides. Kennywood is actually a great place for a beginner enthusiast to start their journey. A few other parks that are great for beginners would be Kings Island, Six Flags Great Adventure, Hershey Park, Dutch Wonderland, and Dollywood. Of course, there are other parks that would fit this bill, but I just wanted to point out a few. The family coaster is going to be a little bigger than your typical kiddie coaster, but not too much bigger. They will feature a couple points that may push the intensity, but the majority of the family coaster is easygoing. Mine Train coasters make for some good family coasters. They usually stay low to the ground and have a slower average speed, but still offering a couple moments where the intensity might pick up a notch. Just like the kiddie coaster, ride the family coaster multiple times until you feel comfortable and maybe a little bored of riding it. Make sure that you are riding in different seats. Don't just stick to the middle row, venture out and ride in a different seat on each cycle. Number 3, the wall. Quite possibly the hardest point of this whole process. After you've gotten yourself comfortable with the kiddie and family coasters, it's now time to move the intensity up another notch. Now you have reached the wall. This is the point in your process that will be the hardest to break through. You will be challenging yourself. Now, you don't need to go crazy. You don't have to be heading towards the nearest hypercoaster and invert. If you are at Kennywood, up to this point, I would assume you have ridden Little Phantom, Jackrabbit, Racer, maybe possibly Exterminator. The next pick should either be Thunderbolt or Skyrocket. If you're ready to handle some inversions, I think it would be time to try out Skyrocket. The launch isn't too intense, and the inversions are pretty easygoing for a beginner. Thunderbolt can be a tricky one because of its height requirement and the fact that you must ride with a partner. I haven't mentioned this yet, but I'm assuming that you have been riding all these roller coasters with a partner. It is also great to have someone there to encourage you, not to torture you. Humiliating someone usually triggers 2 responses, either fight, which could turn hostile or end up with you riding the roller coaster in spite. The second option, which is the most common choice, is flight. If someone is pushing you too hard, you may simply just back off and bail. It has to be your choice to ride, no one else's. So once you finally break through this wall, now we get to the real fun. Just like the last 2 steps, ride this roller coaster multiple times. I want you to become very familiar with this roller coaster. You might not get bored with it like you did with the family kiddie coaster, which is perfectly normal. Make sure to congratulate yourself. This was a huge accomplishment, and you've ridden a decent-sized roller coaster. But it isn't time to stop yet. We gotta keep pushing forward and obliterate this fear once and for all. Number 4, working on up. So now that you've ridden some family coasters and maybe a couple larger roller coasters, nothing too big, just bigger than a family coaster, it's time to increase the heat. If you haven't ridden a roller coaster that goes upside down, now is the time. I know this can be a huge step for some, because the thought of going upside down seems scary to some. Honestly, this is my opinion, but going upside down isn't as scary as it seems. Most inversions are pretty quick, so it's not like you're stuck upside down that long. If you've ridden a roller coaster with inversions, maybe it's time to try something else, like an inverted coaster or a flying coaster. For those who are afraid of heights, an inverted coaster will be very intimidating. So let's push that model off for a little further, but again, if you're up for it, don't let me stop you. Alright, well here's a few additional tips to help you along your way. Ride in the middle row. As most coaster enthusiasts know, the front and back rows of any roller coaster will be the most intense. If you are looking to start out small, go for the middle row. It will have the most mellow experience. Ride the first train of the day. Earlier in the day, roller coasters will run a little more sluggish until they start warming up. If you're afraid of an intense experience, the first ride of the day will usually provide the least extreme run. But note, this isn't a major difference for most coasters. Some you might notice a change, but it's not going to provide a drastic experience for the most part anyways. Ride with a confidant. Going it alone might be the toughest way to tackle your fear of roller coasters. Take someone who you trust but isn't afraid to ride roller coasters. They will play a huge role in this venture. When you are with someone you trust, you can be free to express how you truly feel. If you're scared, that's okay, your friend will be there to help you through. Now that you completed this video, you're all set to conquering your fears. I really do hope this video helps you overcome your fear of riding roller coasters. Theme parks are a place of fun and escapism that all of us should be able to enjoy. Just like myself, I had to overcome my fears and know that you can do it too. With these amazing tips and advice, some good friends to encourage you along the way, I know you can accomplish it too. Well, thank you for watching today's video. For those who recently rode their first roller coaster or those who might be still struggling, let me know all about it in the comments below. As always, please subscribe so you don't miss out on more great content coming your way by XscreamThrills.